Illiberalism in Iran, the 2009 presidential election. On June 12, 2009, an election was held for the president of Iran. The former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was running for re-election. He is a member of the Alliance of Builders of Islamic Iran party. This is a far right-wing party. The main opposition is the Green Path of Hope party, led by Mir-Hossein Mousavi. This is a center-left party. Ahmadinejad was re-elected with 64% of the popular vote. Mousavi had only 33% of the vote. In Iran, any Iranian citizen 18 or over can vote. Estimated 46.2 million eligible voters. Voter turnout was extremely high and unexpected, making the voting process take 4 hours longer than expected. Presidents are elected by popular vote, but the candidates must be approved by a 12-member Council of Guardians. The voting process is a 2-round vote where first all candidates are voted for. Then the top 2 are voted for again. Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is more powerful than the president and pushed for Ahmadinejad's presidency. After Ahmadinejad's first election into presidency in 2005, there was talk about the election being rigged, but it was never investigated. After the 2009 election, there is even more talk about the election being rigged, much of it coming from other countries. After an appeal to the Guardian Council, an investigation was launched. Mousavi stated that 14 million unused ballots were missing, leaving room for fraud. On June 29th, a partial recount was completed and Ahmadinejad won. This is when many protests, peaceful and non-peaceful, started. Iranian officials stated that Western and Zionist forces are responsible for many of the protests and the uncertainty in Iran. 4 of 9 British officials were arrested at these protests and are still in Iranian jail. The New York Times quoted an employee of the Interior Ministry claiming that the government had been preparing its fraud for weeks, purging anyone of doubtful loyalty and importing pliable staff members from around the country. The New Yorker stated that dissident employees of the Interior Ministry have reportedly issued an open letter saying that the election was stolen. The Guardian has also mentioned reports of a leaked Interior Ministry figures allegedly suggesting Mousavi had won, although the article questioned the credibility of the report. BBC Iranian affairs analyst Sadek Saba found abnormalities in the way results were announced. Instead of results by province, the results came in blocks of millions of votes, with very little difference between the blocks in the percentages going to each candidate. This suggests that Ahmadinejad did equally well in rural and urban areas, while his 3 opponents did equally bad in their home regions and provinces as in the rest of the country. This contradicted all precedent in Iranian politics, where Ahmadinejad had been very popular in rural areas and unpopular in the big cities, where ethnic minorities had favored anti-establishment candidates, and where candidates had tended to carry their home provinces. Opinion polls in Iran are considered unreliable. A number of polls conducted between relatively small voting groups, like university students and workers, have been reported as election propaganda. More polls in the general media do not state the polling organization or the basic facts about the methodology. An independent poll taken by Terror Free Tomorrow found that 1% said they would vote for Ahmadinejad and 14% favored Mousavi. 27% were undecided, and the rest were for other candidates. That poll was taken May 11th to 20th. All of this is an example of illiberalism because by not allowing a fair vote from all the citizens, they are removing the citizens' right. If in fact the vote was rigged, then it is an extremely illiberal thing. The evidence stating that the election was rigged is very strong. Shortly after the election, street marches were banned in Iran, which is going against the citizens' right to dissent and protest. Facebook was blocked in Iran from May 23rd to 26th, which is stopping the citizens' freedom of speech. This is said to be because the government did not want the candidates using non-regulated sources to promote their campaign. Gmail and Yahoo were also blocked after the election on September 21st, along with many Persian news sites that were talking about the election and its candidates. Official newspapers reportedly received orders from the Supreme National Security Council not to publish anything about Mousavi, opposition, and election fraud. BBC stated that heavy electronic jamming was being used to halt broadcast. Mobile phone communications were also interrupted in Tehran on election day. All of this is removing rights from the citizens to have free speech and to know what is going on in their own country. It is illiberal to censor so many things, especially with next to no justification given by the government. Many people were arrested for peaceful protests, and conditions in prisons are extremely bad. There are multiple testimonies from people for rape, torture, and other abuse by Iranian officials in the jails. People were arrested and sentenced for very long and irrational sentences. One example is a girl conducting a peaceful protest by not wearing a scarf. She was sentenced to 3 years in jail, and after her release, she spoke of being tortured, interrogated, and raped while in prison. On June 21st, Iranian-born Canadian citizen and Newsweek journalist Maziar Bahari was arrested at a peaceful protest and forced to confess in a series of trials for detained protesters. By treating these people with such disregard and cruelty, they are going against liberalism and denying these people of their basic rights of safety and security. There are also many reports of unjust trials, forcing people to confess and be punished for things they did not do or have any part of. The Iranian government stated that these people are not being arrested, but they are being summoned and then warned not to increase tension, then released. Relatives of many detained protesters have confirmed that the interrogation of prisoners is being headed by Saeed Mortazavi, a figure already known for alleged involvement in brutal interrogations and torture. The government is going as far as arresting its own officials for not doing anything that the government wants. One report from The Guardian on June 22nd states that General Ali Fazil, the newly appointed commander of Revolutionary Guards at the time, had been arrested for refusing to carry out committee-ordered force against demonstrators. Again, this is going against his freedoms, and the arrest is very unjust. The Basij are much like Germany's Hitler Youth back during World War II. They consist of volunteers used to fight against protesters and other forms of dissent. There are many videos showing the Basij members breaking into houses, shooting into crowds, attacking university dorms at night, and destroying property. This is a direct violation with the principles of liberalism, as people's private property is being destroyed and violated.
The Iranian government's illiberal actions during and after the 2009 presidential election were in no way justified. They sometimes even disregarded liberal values altogether, still with no justification. The people's refusal to back down was clear, as they marched by the millions to demonstrate and uphold the liberal values they hold so close.